This is the Political Spotlight.
The Political Spotlight is a joke. It's more like a political flop.
Nobody listens to Bilbrey.
He's just a wannabe podcaster. No one takes him seriously.
He is a rude, crude dude that will never go any further than broadcasting from his mother's basement.
Bilbrey is a wrecking ball for Indiana politicians.
Grab another box of Twinkies and generic cola, Bilbrey,
And get back to your microphone and your audience of nobodies.
The Political Spotlight is a joke. It's
He is like a rude, crude dude that will never go
Bilbrey's a wrecking ball for Indiana politics. Shut that stupid Bilbrey up.
Subscribe very much to the fact that, time is just a construct in our mind. And basically, if you're there, you are on time. Wherever there might be, whatever time it might be, you're good to go. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Political Spotlight. I'm your host, Kristopher H. Bilbrey. We are live from Mud Creek Studio. Man, it's finally starting to seem like home studio here. It's finally starting to seem a little bit more comfortable, not so chaotic. Things are starting to come together, and things are going really well. So before we get started, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a guest, so we don't want to take up too much time here at the beginning. But before we get started, please do that YouTube thing. Like the show, subscribe, do all of that stuff. If you could, that would be so fantastic. If you want to communicate with us and talk and leave your comments and maybe ask questions, you can do that over here on the right-hand side of the screen. Communicate. And something I want to tell everybody, people don't understand this. We didn't understand it for a minute. When we air live, when we broadcast live to all of our various platforms, specifically on YouTube, when you're commenting live in the moment, that's great. The minute the show ends every night, you can immediately go back and watch the show. A lot of people watch the show. As soon as we go off, that's when they come on to watch. The issue is, however, the live comments that were made during the show, they are not visible for nearly 12 to 24 hours after the show. It's something that YouTube does. We can't control it. So if you make live comments during the show and you might want to go back and check them or see if somebody else commented or something, you've sometimes got to give it about a day. That's not something that we can help. It's not something that we do. That's a YouTube thing. So just a little reminder there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're going to start, I guess this is the official start of the campaign political candidate interview portion of our program. It's a love-hate relationship that I have with this because I love talking to the people and I like getting to know the people, whether I support them or I don't support them, or whether they like me or they don't like me, or whether I like them or don't like them. I like to hear what they're about. I like to let them tell you, the listener, the audience, the constituents, what they're about. So this is going to be a fun time. Now, the thing I don't like is trying to herd them all. It's kind of like a goat rodeo or herding cats, or, something even worse than that. Snakes, herding snakes, because it's politicians. However, this guy, the gentleman that we're going to be talking about, he's actually one of the good ones. I think that this man is a decent human being. I think that win, lose, or draw, he's a good guy. He's definitely good for Henry County. I think if you're friends with this man, you probably have a decent friend and somebody that you can count on and is a good person. I'm looking forward to our conversation. I don't always look forward to the conversations. I think they're interesting, but I don't always look forward to them. This one I'm actually looking forward to. And I want to tell you, in no particular order, we are sending out candidate interviews to candidates in about 4, 5, or 6 different counties, different state districts, and all over. If you or someone you know is a candidate running for office and you want to come on here and spin your tale and let us know your plan and tell us what you're running for, we will talk to you. And it's basically a first come, first served basis. So if you're interested in getting in early and kind of having your pick of the dates and times, you want to get in contact with us, you can email the show at tpsprogram@gmail.com. You can also email me directly at khbilbrey@gmail.com, and or you can text me. Don't call, text. That's probably the best thing to text. You can call me any other time, but for this, text me so we can have a trail of it. But we're going to put candidates in when they come. We might do a Henry County candidate. The next night, we might do someone from Madison County. Then we might do somebody from District 25. It doesn't matter. We're just going to put them all together. It doesn't matter when they're Democrats or Republicans or the same opponents or whatever. We're just going to put them in here as they come, and we will market it out so that people can find. We're going to market the shows with their name. Like, so for tonight, episode 636 is Steve Dugger, R, Republican, candidate for Henry County Commissioner. And that's just simply the title of the show. That's the guest for this evening, Henry County candidate. Oh, yeah, that's a good question there, Kate. Yeah, you absolutely. So we're going to go ahead and start with that. Without further ado, we're going to bring up the man of the hour and see what he's got to say. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Steve Dugger, Republican candidate for Henry County Commissioner. Welcome, Mr. Dugger. How's it going?
Well, going good, Chris.
Yeah.
Which, of course, I've been listening to you make the introduction here, and you've said a lot of good things about me already. And I mean, you've said so many good things. I can't wait to hear what I've got to say myself.
Well, it's going to be good. Hey, you know, if you got somebody like me talking for you, I guess if it's the good talk, I guess it's you know, you can't go wrong. But no, I've been looking forward to this for a while, and I think we're going to have a good time. So
we are, and I'm looking forward to it. And first of all, I want to thank you for having me on, and I think it's a great privilege for me to be your first candidate. I'm looking forward. We got a lot to talk about.
Absolutely.
And,
I tell you,
and Chris, I've never met you.
Yeah.
Don't guess you've ever met me.
No.
But now I watch you all the time.
Well, I appreciate that.
All the time. And I asked my niece here tonight, and I said, now I want to make sure that you've got me subscribed to the channel, because I listened to Chris the other night, and he kind of rebuked somebody because here they wasn't even subscribed, and I am. So, okay.
Yes. No, and I was just giving her a hard time. I get along with Bobby. Yeah, it's that's funny.
I was over to a friend's house. Well, I went by. He wanted me to come put a sign in his yard yesterday, and he said, "You ever watch a Bilbrey show?" I said, "Yeah, I watch it all the time." He said, "I do too." He said, "Every time it's on," he said, I watch it." He said, "I can't wait for it to come on." So, you know, though he's not a person that would type in comments or anything.
Sure.
He's out. Jimmy Thompson. He's a builder in Henry County. He's probably watching you tonight, I'd say.
Well, Jimmy, if you're watching, I appreciate it, and I definitely appreciate the views. And when you're here, whether people comment or not, I definitely know we know that there are a lot more people that watch than comment, and I appreciate them all, whether they're supporters or detractors. I appreciate the people that tune in and give us their time. So I mean, they could be literally anywhere else doing any other thing. So that definitely means something to me.
Chris, could I start out tonight by asking you a question and get some advice, and maybe by the end of the show, I know that there are a lot of people that they write in, they make comments. Maybe there'd be a vote. Maybe with this question, my question to you, we could get some public comment and see what they think about it. Okay, whether it's a good idea or bad idea. Okay. Now, let me start. I'll go around the barn. Okay.
Okay.
Now, you know the commissioners in Henry County.
Mm-hmm.
This you probably didn't know. Mr. Dillinger, Steve Dillinger, and I went to school together. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
from the 5th grade.
Okay.
We started to. I went to the old Moreland Elementary School, the old brick building that used to be there, and in the 5th grade, the kids from the Mount Summit, the Springport area, they went to Mount Summit, and then in the 5th grade, they were transferred to Moreland. And so in the 5th and 6th grade, we went to school together there, and of course, in the 7th grade, we went to the high school. And so Steve and I we've been friends for a long time. A lot of people don't know that, but I had this idea. Now here we go. Here's my question to you. Okay, and I'm going to tell you, I called Steve Dillinger today, and I told him here a while back. I said, Steve, I would take out a billboard if I could do like you, get the deal you got. I said, yours is going to be up for probably 2 elections, and they're still up. And if I could get the deal that you got, I said, how do you do that? He said, I don't know. It just worked out that way. Well, I said, well, I said, I need a favor from you. He said, well, he was real cautious, you know. He said, well, what's that? And I said, here's what I've got to thinking. I said, your name's Steve. My name's Steve. And you're running for commissioner. Your billboards say you're running for commissioner. I'm running for commissioner. I said, your last name starts with a D and ends with G-E-R. I said, what do you think of this? I said, I get a ladder and I go up there and I just take your hair and color it gray and your beard gray. And I said, people going down the road, they won't notice too much. And I said, we're about the same size and same height and everything. And then I can just mark out that ILL, you know, and just put UG. And I've got the D, I've got the GER, and I put the UG in there. Just mark through it, do my hair gray, my beard, your hair gray, your beard gray. And I said, would you go along with that? And he's fine with it. But you know, do you think, Chris, what do you think?
Listen, I tell you, I was thinking the other night when I was writing down the list. I think what you guys needed to do was you guys needed to go in together and buy signs that just says elect Steve D commissioner. You could do 50%, he could do 50%, and you guys would be good to go. I think that would be fantastic.
And if he pays, it's kind of like a buy one get one free meal.
Yeah.
You know, did you know? And we'll get into this, I know, but I knew a lot of people, which I spent 30 years in Muncie.
Sure.
And did you ever know a guy named Billy Parker?
The name does not sound familiar.
Okay, well, Billy, he was a neat sort of guy, but Billy was like, what was that guy on the Popeye cartoon that always wanted a hamburger?
Oh, yeah.
Wimpy?
Yeah. Wimpy. Yeah.
Wimpy.
Yes.
Well, Billy always cut out coupons, buy one, get one free.
Yes.
And he said, man, you gonna go out and eat together? And I said, well, I don't know, Billy. He said, I got coupons. And I said, oh, you do? And he'd show it to me, buy one, get one free. And I said, well, that's great for one of us. I said, well, who gets the free one?
Yeah, right.
Well, I do. He had a great deal, you know. And so if I could get Steve to buy the billboards, and then because our elections are different. Yeah. And then he gets such a great deal on them.
Sure.
And then I could just reuse his billboard.
Yeah, I tell you.
You think there's a law against that?
No. Hey, I think that would be easily skirting around. I think the disclaimer, you'd have to get real close on the disclaimer, but that's an interesting, hey, that's what it takes sometimes. People with different thoughts on how to maybe get in and save some money for the county. It seems like you might be the right go. So let me ask you, for the people that I think that there's probably not many people in Henry County that don't know you, but for the ones that might not, this is not your first foray into political office. You didn't just wake up and say, I think I'm going to try this. You've been around the block politically in the past. So you want to kind of explain your political past to the folks?
Yeah. And Chris, I'll tell you what, I'm going to say hi to Brenda there. I seen
Sure,
she
absolutely.
popped up. The girls told me that I would see that. And I want to put a sign in Brenda's yard there on State Road 3. So anyway, so here is how this started, Chris. And I was born in Henry County. We lived in the country outside of Moreland, about 3 miles west of Moreland. If anybody has ever been to Summit Lake State Park, you turn north off 36 to go to our house. You turned right, went down 3/4 of a mile to the crossroad, turned left. And back then we was the first place on the right. Small farm, 30 acres. And, we milked cows, had some pigs, things like that, like people do in the country. But it was a great place to grow up. I went to, I've already said the Moreland Elementary School, went to Blue River, just a great community. And I truly, I love Henry County. I could live, I've said this often, I could live anywhere that I want to live. You know how it is. I want to live here. I want to live in Henry County. It's I think a good place to live. And I thought for just a long time, I thought one of these days, I think I'd like to run for an office and just kind of do something and give back, because it's been such a good place to live. And so my wife and I was over at the Cracker Barrel in Anderson, and I ran into somebody, and actually they were a Democrat. And they said, hey, the council position is open in your district. Why don't you run for that? I thought about it. I thought, I think I'll do that. And so I went up there and signed up. And back then you had to get signatures, and you get 15 or whatever, you sign up. And I told my son, I said, hey, Josh, I said, the council district in your position is open. You ought to sign up for that. And you know what he did? Chris, he went up there and signed up for it. And it stumped the ladies at the voter registration. And they said, well, there was a Dugger in here earlier today and signed up. Are you related? He said, yeah. He said, that's my dad. He said, my mom's coming in next. And he just left it like that. He said, my mom's coming in next. Well, he didn't run. He was engaged, and he got to thinking about it. He withdrew his name. And, but that's how I got in. And in that election, I really worked it hard. It was a district. I was in District 3, and I had like Knightstown and Sulphur, Middletown. I wasn't in the Newcastle. It didn't include that. But I was in that district. I worked it hard, and I was the only person that unseated. I unseated the candidate there, and I won that. And so I served 8 years on the council.
And that was what was your first year on council?
I think that would have been, it might have been 2010 or 2000.
That's what I thought.
12, maybe.
I thought it was around between 2010 or 11 or 12. 11 would have been a city election, so it would have either been 10 or 12.
One of those.
Yeah.
I didn't think that I would ever run for anything again. They're giving me signs, Chris. I don't know what that means. I'm just not going to pay attention to them. But I didn't know that I'd ever run for anything again.
Yeah.
I know it's been about 8 years though since I have held an office.
Yeah. Yeah. And so were you were just prior to all of the windmill debacle.
Right. I was in that, Chris.
Okay. So you were involved in that.
I was involved in it. Yeah.
Okay.
And you may have that question later. I don't know. I won't interrupt you, but
no, you're fine.
I can, see on the wind thing. Honestly, I don't want to see windmills. I really don't. But where I drew the line, and everybody thought that I was all for them, and that wasn't the case. The case was that the farmers in Henry County, this is a farming community, and they pay about close to 70% of the taxes in Henry County. And I felt like I ought to represent the farmers, and there was a lot of farmers that was for that. But my thing was, I don't think that if you own property and you have spent your lifetime paying the taxes, taking care of that place, throughout your life, and maybe it was your dad's or grandparents before that anybody should, the government needs to stay out of your business, and they shouldn't tell you what you can do and what you can't do with your property. I own 5 acres. That's all I own. That's more than I need, but I really don't want nobody telling me what I can do with my 5 acres. It's mine.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think the government overreaches a lot of times. And, I'm one of those that I'm for less government.
Yes.
And and I shouldn't say this, but if I want to have bees out here, Chris, I want to have bees. I don't have no bees, but if I want to have them, I want to have them. I want people to leave me alone. Don't want them coming around. Don't want them bothering me. And that's me. And I felt like the farmers, knowing what a lot of them had been through. And when you go way back when they were buying ground and paying, when the farmers were on that floating interest rate, a lot of them went under. But through thick and thin, that's theirs. And I just think that people ought to stay out. The government ought to stay out of people's business.
Sure, absolutely. I
think that's just me on that.
In my opinion, that should win a lot of our viewers over, because I feel like a lot of people here feel that same way. And anymore, you're starting to see just from the state, from national, state down to local. There's just so much. We're just building up, especially in Indiana, where it's, we're supposed to be a largely quote unquote conservative Republican state with, a lot of Republicans in office everywhere. Republicans dominate, it's a super duper majority state house. And we have Republicans that are in every facet of government, from little towns to cities to counties, but yet we're still growing the government, just larger and larger each and every year, and it's really out of control. Go ahead.
Well, there's some things like, the commissioners will, if we have a real dry season, they'll say there's a no ban law, and I get that, that's okay. Some things like that, to say, you shouldn't be burning brush or burning fence rows or something like that at that time. And I take that kind of heads up warning, hey, it's that time of year, we shouldn't do that. But, to come out and tell you that you can't have a cow or something, and when you're in the country, or you can't shoot your gun, out here, if we want to shoot a gun, we can. You just things that in the country, I think that you're entitled to. And, everybody doesn't want to live in the country.
Sure.
Some people are city people, city dwellers, but whatever, that's kind of my stance on that.
I hear you. I completely get it. So one of the questions, kind of how we're going to do this, I've got some questions, and some people might listen, and I don't have a format. I'm not going to, just so everybody knows, I don't have a format. I'm not going to ask each candidate the same questions. People can go to the little forums that people put on where you get 2-minute questions and you get the same questions over and over and over. To me, I like kind of a longer format conversation, because that kind of gets into who the person really is, and you feel more comfortable talking. And I think that's more beneficial to people. So that's just a heads up on how we're going to do these over the next couple of weeks for folks. But there are questions that I'm going to ask you. Either someone from the comments have asked, and it might be good. And then after this is over, you guys might go back through and look, because there will be questions that someone will ask that we won't get to, that you might want to answer later on. But so let me ask you this question that I know that everybody, specifically in Henry County right now, is kind of wondering. We have this big issue going on with the insurance and all this liability, and there's seems to be a question about how much, if the county is in good shape or not good shape. It depends on who you ask. If you watch the council meeting from today, it looks like at least the council members are kind of all on the same page, that we're not as good as what some of the candidates are trying to make people believe, that the council members currently in office are concerned. I'm just going to ask straight up, is there a way that you foresee going forward, if elected to the council or to the commissioner's office, that you guys can put the brakes on, like, for example, what the sheriff's department is doing, or to try to reel in kind of what's happening and try to right the ship financially? What's your thoughts on what's happening right now in that department?
Well, sometimes I take the long way around answering.
That's fine. Me too. No,
and I do think it was 2010. And I'm going to jog your memory. You'll remember this. You remember 2008 when we had a housing market crash?
Absolutely.
When I went on the council in 2010, they estimated that the unemployment rate in Henry County was 16.5%.
Okay.
Now, that was everywhere. You recall it. And I'm reminding, the viewers, think back for just a little bit. You couldn't buy a job in 2010. And 2008, that's when the housing went kaplu, and we had all that. So when I went on the council, I sat in some of the meetings prior to winning the primary. And I sat in the meetings between the primary and the fall election. I had a candidate oppose a Democrat candidate in the fall that I had to win that election as well. So here's what, when I was sitting there that year, the council was asking all departments, trim what you can. Cut your budget, trim everything that you can. And one by one, they were all coming in, and the ones that could, they said, we've trimmed this. We've trimmed down to we're buying our own paper, we're buying our own pens, we're doing this. And so it was just, it would be like you and I in our household.
Sure.
If we lost part of our income, you know what, we're going to maybe do away with cable. We're going to quit do whatever you can.
Yeah.
If you don't shop at Aldi's, you may be shopping at Aldi's, and just do whatever you can. So the county was on a diet during that time. And even after I got elected, we had some lean times. And you'll recall it was I believe he was a state representative from Muncie that proposed the tax, the 1-2-3%, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Muncie?
Yeah, I believe so.
And it passed.
Yeah.
So what happened is now a home was 1% of assessed value, 2% if it was a rental property, 3% if it was a business. Well, a lot of people in county government was really, really crying then. And I liked it. I loved it. And always my argument when it would come up, I said, I owned some rental properties at that time in Muncie. And, the guy up there, James Carmichael.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I hope we get on it. I know a lot of the politicians, a lot of them, and this could really get interesting. Well, you could go in there to Mr. Carmichael, and I went in there. So in 2008, it bellied up, and Delaware County had some assessor group come in and assess all the property in Delaware County. Well, I owned at that time a modular over in Whiteley.
Okay.
And I had it for sale for $23,000. You know what they assessed that for? $90,000. I said, Mr. Carmichael, there is not a modular in Delaware County worth $90,000. He said, oh, yes, there is. And I said, okay, let me rephrase that then. I said, there's not one in Whiteley worth $90,000. but it was just it was a bad deal. So anyway, the county had to get used to trimming the fat, and they had to live within their means. Now here, unfortunately, is what I told you it's going around the barn. So here, unfortunately, is what I see Delaware County or Henry County facing right now. They had to pay $1 million, and I may not have the number exactly right, but 87,000 or something by March 21st. They had to have that money paid. Okay. And they might have worked on a little bit of a payment plan. I'm not real sure, because, I could go up there and ask, but I haven't. So they had to come up with that money. And, but that's not the worst part. That's bad enough. But now it's my understanding that any big claim, so like if there's a lawsuit, if there's a big loss or any big claim, the county has to pay the first $100,000.
Yep.
If there is vehicle, an accident with one of the county-owned vehicles, they're going to have to pay the first $25,000. Now we could go back and look, say, take the last 4 years, for example, and see what losses has been turned into the insurance. But, we got lawsuits coming up, and I know the sheriff says that those are, does he say frivolous? Is that the word?
Yeah, frivolous.
Frivolous. Okay, well, they might be frivolous, but the county is still going to be out money on every single one of those, because you've got to have your attorney to do his part, and then you're going to have to get a bigger shot attorney to deal with those lawsuits. You know what I'm saying? The local guys are not going to deal with those.
Yeah.
We had a lawsuit back when I was in council, and at that time, I went to the state house. And here's what it was over. We had a guy that had been in the jail, and some of the attorneys are ambulance chasers.
Sure.
So he got this guy got out of jail, and he said, "Boy, aren't those jail conditions bad?" And da 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 da. Well, he got him to file a suit. Now that guy was not going to get a dime of it. But what this attorney did is he racked up about 200 hours, and he was wanting to collect on that. And so we were fighting it as the county, but we still had to hire an outside firm, not out of Henry County, is my point. Yeah. And it was still costing us money. Now, it whatever happened after I left the council. So it never was settled while I was on the council. But every one of these frivolous lawsuits, they still cost your county money. And then when I said the other part of this insurance thing is that, only the Lord knows how many 100,000 we're going to have to pay out of the county, and in the time to come, and we're going to be with that insurance company for a long time. There's only a handful of insurance companies that will insure a county, maybe somewhere between 4 or 6, something like that, will look at Henry County and say, okay, we'll take you on.
Sure.
And you just choose which one. So I talked so much, Chris, I forgot actually the question.
No, you're fine. I just how your thoughts on where the county currently is, and moving forward from here. What if you're lucky enough to come out on top? What your thoughts are of trying to clean that up?
There is going to have to be no matter. I mean, you've got a budget, and the commissioners have their budget. Mm-hmm. And there's certain things that they take care of and pay and maintaining, all the things that they have that they take care of out of their budget. But Henry County is, any way you look at it, they're spending out a lot more money that they don't have budgeted for. And I don't think the council is going to be able to, if they put back a little bit of money, say, to deal with some of these lawsuits, I'm sure it won't be enough. Now, I you've heard some of this, and I get tickled at them because some of the guys there on the council say, "Oh, we got $11 million."
Yeah.
And then I'll hear somebody else say, "We don't have no $11 million." and my guess is that it's like this. I haven't seen their budget and I haven't seen their balance sheets or anything, but you've got to pay all the bills the rest of the year out of that money you got. So you really don't have that money.
Yeah.
And there's going to have to be some tightening up.
Yeah.
And there's going to have to be some savings any way you look at it. It's like I know where I was going, like back to then in 2010 when everybody was conserving until things catch up. It's just going to have to be some trimming done, and
Sure.
They cannot be. If I'm elected commissioner, I mean I'm conservative anyway, and there's going to have to be. I believe, of course, I'm not the only one voting, but there's going to have to be some conservative stances taken.
Specific.
That's the only way I see to,
Sure.
To make up for it.
Well, a couple people have asked the question on the screen right here, and obviously each position is kind of the commissioners aren't over the sheriff, or the sheriff's not like that. So it's only in so much what you could do. But with that being said, what do you think as a commissioner that you guys can do to attempt to hold the sheriff's office accountable for their financially for what it seems to be is their mismanagement of their actions or their attitudes or their spending or whatever that is causing the issue with the sheriff's department financially in the county? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, we'll have to touch on several different things. Okay.
Sure.
One being, I know the sheriff's office doesn't want to take the blame for the insurance, but facts.
Yeah.
We've got these lawsuits, and each one of those are under the old policy. Well, the most recent ones are not. But the others are, and I think that was around, you may know better than me, Chris, wasn't the deductible on that about 50 grand, 50 or 60?
Kate, you remember what that was?
Do you remember what was?
What the deductible?
Under the old insurance policy.
The old insurance? For
the ones
general sexual workers, it was nothing. It was zero.
Okay, so are we talking about before 2024, or are we talking about from between 2024 and now? Because remember, in 2024 they were dropped.
I know.
Yeah.
Previous policy, the one that was just canceled.
Yeah.
The deductibles on the general liability, the workers' liability, the sexual liability was zero.
Okay.
Well, when I was on the council, the deductible was $25,000 per incident. Back, and that was we took out a new policy because we got canceled. The Henry County was canceled. I don't know if you knew this or not, but Henry County was canceled about 2010, 2011. And we had to go through this back then. And the insurance company that we took out, the deductible was $25,000 per incident. I don't remember what it was on the cars, but that's per lawsuit that we had to pay the first $25,000.
Sure.
And I would just think, and I would just think that there's some kind of deductible there. Not, I'm not saying she's wrong, but
no, that was the old one. Now I think now after we're now into the this will be the third insurance company since in 2023 and before there was an insurance company, and then they, because of some issues within the sheriff's department, that one they dropped, and that was taken care of in the commissioners meeting in January 2024. And then from there until here just recently, there was the second one. And then now we're in the third since, like I said, since then. So it's definitely higher now. And that's the big issue is, where they are with that. It's just absolutely crazy. And as one of the commenters said here today, the county council didn't have the funds today to cover a $50,000 invoice. And I mean, when you start looking at, the county council's trying to pay the bills, and they, they're not being able to cover I don't know what that was for. I haven't had a chance to watch that yet, but that's a pretty crazy thing.
I thought they had $11 million.
I don't know what that specifically was for. I don't know. I'm going to have to go back and watch that. Joe's got that. Joe's put that up there, and he's pretty spot on with things. So I'm going to have to go and read that. But that's that's pretty crazy.
But talking about the spending there. So there's decisions that the council can make, and there's decisions the commissioners can make that in probably every county out of the 92 counties in Indiana that are tough that you won't get people to talk about, and would it, and I'm just throwing this out there is all I'm doing. I'm not advocating, and I'm not saying we're going to do this, but if you got to the place where you can't pay the bills, you might have to stop things like take home cars. I don't know. If you got to that place, you might get to the place where that, you just say, hey, we can only pay what we can pay, or what we have to pay. The maintenance, now when I was on the council, we got a, let me think of safety load tax.
Yeah.
You familiar with that?
Yep.
Okay. We implemented the safety load tax, and we had some really, really bad cars at the sheriff's department. We had a deputy going down State Road 3 past Memorial Park, and somebody pulled the deputy car over because it was smoking so bad. And come to find out, there was a hole in the floorboard, and the deputy's heel of his shoe was on the exhaust pipe.
Oh my God!
You'd think he would have felt it, but
right.
Apparently he didn't. And but that's what was burning. But we had cars 200,000-300,000 miles on it, and I got the council to take out of the rainy day fund and buy a new car. But it wasn't until that we got the safety load tax approved that then I believe the sheriff's department was set to get 4 new cars a year, four new ones every year. Now the extra ones, I know the council or the commissioners have bought more than that in the past, but the time may come that you may not be able to do those things. There's just a lot of things you just may not be able to do if the if there's a lot of expense put out of the county, 100,000 or whatever. I realize, and people say, well, that's down the road. That's down the road. These lawsuits take 3, 4, 5, 6 years. I realize that, but payday comes someday.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's you have to be willing to look at that's going to happen, because it does take time, but it will be coming. That's absolutely right. I am not against the sheriff's department. I'm for them having what that they need. Sure.
But I got a feeling that, that there's got to be, and I'm going back to, there's going to have to be some tightening up because of the drastic changes that's taken place with this extra money that's costing for the insurance, and the $100,000 deductible, the $25,000 deductible, and all that. It's and I think the taxpayers expect the council, they expect the commissioners to spend their taxpayer dollars wisely.
Yeah.
I mean, I want whoever's in office to have some common sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Kind of going back, and this is kind of like a basic baseline question, but just to get kind of your understanding and let people know where what you see as the role. What do you see as the commissioner's just main priority responsibilities? What's your take on what those are?
Well, obviously, the commissioners is supposed to be, we'll talk about roads. Roads is always a big thing. We've got almost, we've got 700, almost 7. We used to have about 702 miles of roads in Henry County. And I think there's a little less than that now, but and I don't remember why there was that change, but when Joe Wiley was the road commissioner, it dropped it down, I think, just a little less, but let's just call it 700 miles of roads that have to be maintained. And, that's a lot of roads. They tell me that when our roads were first made, that we didn't have good basin under those roads. And because of, the glaciers that moved through millions of years ago, they did this and did that. And, and so, so when we built the roads, anyhow, those roads have to be maintained. And,
Sure.
People in our county that pay taxes, they don't understand why can't we have good roads? Other counties have good roads. And so that is a big priority. Now, when Joe was out there, the road superintendent, I know they had a list. You had the worst roads on that list, like they had priority, and then they worked down that list, how long this one has been paved, how many people. And so they had some kind of a formula. Now, I stopped out at the highway department not long ago and introduced myself to one of the guys out there. And I know I saw the commissioners meeting where they bought a new paving machine. And so here's what we had to happen. It's probably been for 8-9 years now. The state of Indiana said, if you come up with $1 million, we'll match it. We'll match it. So that's $2 million that would go into Henry County roads. And I think everybody has seen that the roads have improved. Now, this year, I'm told that we did not get that money. And I really don't know why. I talked to Debbie up there, and there was some paperwork that's been refiled, and I hope Henry County gets that and gets that money and can stay on top of those roads. But roads is a big issue.
Sure.
We all have potholes. Remember when Mayor Cannon, was it Mayor Cannon when they had the bumper stickers? Everybody put bumper stickers on their car back in the day that says, City of Potholes and Taxes. You remember those? Bumper stickers, and people put them on their cars. Boy, they'd be some bad potholes. Down there.
We're in that situation up here again, and somebody a year or two ago, a couple of years ago, might have been in the first term under the current mayor, Dan Ridenhour. They had bought a website domain, dansholes.com. And if you actually would go to it, if you go to dansholes.com, it takes you to the City of Muncie's street department page where you can actually report potholes. And I thought, man, that's genius. But everybody was sharing that and talking about it. But yeah, we've got that problem up here. And I think you're talking about the community crossings money. And that is it's an absolute wonderful thing. And it's always, it seems like everything's going along good. You guys, the communities are getting it. And what happens is something happens and you don't get it one year. And then when you don't get it that year, it's like you're playing catch up from that point forward, and it just makes it because I've seen that in several of the communities that I've followed. Muncie's done that a couple of years where we've not got it for one reason or another.
Oh yeah,
it's been really bad.
And I really don't know. I don't, and it's probably it's probably the state of Indiana that
Yeah.
Which the state of Indiana's got plenty of money, you know.
Sure.
And
Yeah, right.
I'm glad. I'm grateful that, you know, that they did offer that to counties like Henry County, and that we could improve our roads. And, you know, it's like, you do something and we'll do something to help you. And
Yeah.
And it wasn't much, but it was a slight increase in the wheel tax.
Sure.
Is how you come up with that money. And then the other thing that commissioners do is, of course, they oversee the buildings, the property, the land, and everything in Henry County. I saw in the commissioners meeting, and you may have also, that they had some light poles out at the park.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, people, you could get shocked out there, so they killed the power. Well, they're going to have to fix that. And that comes out of the commissioner's budget, the upkeep of buildings. And there's other, you know, they have a park board now, and have had for some years. And, you know, they kind of oversee that park. And I think that may have helped the commissioners in some way, but they still have to foot the cost.
Yeah, sure.
So it's there. And so they do that. And then with the commissioners, there's one of them that will sit on the planning commission. And then they will appoint like a citizen. And I don't know if they appoint one or two. I don't really remember. And same with the council. They have one council member that sits on the planning commission, and then they will appoint one or two. And then one of the planning commission is like a township trustee from one of the, you know, and so that's how that I think 7 or 9 members is made up.
It's a 9-member board. Yeah.
They appoint people. I think they appoint people to the, I don't know. I don't know the right name of it, but the alcohol.
Oh yeah.
Board.
Yeah.
So there's different appointees that the commissioners make throughout the year. And then of course there's negotiating on all that work that they hire out. You know, they take bids on work, and they decide who's going to get that. And then they vote on it in the commissioners meetings. And that's among some of the things that they do. They vote on ordinances and a lot of different things.
Sure. No, that's a good answer. Moving on here. There's a couple of other important questions. There's a ton of great questions. So you're definitely good, because we're not going to get all of them. So you're going to have to come back in, and I'll pass this along to your team.
I hope we have time before the end of the show that we can talk a little bit about some of Muncie a little bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We got a lot to talk about there, but go ahead.
Absolutely. Let me see. I think I know this, because I don't. You're not a drinker, are you?
No, I don't drink.
I didn't think that you did. I'm a teetotaler myself, and
coffee.
So there you go, Jack. There's not a favorite beer or whiskey.
Yeah,
I didn't think he was a drinker.
Alcohol.
I'm not an alcohol drinker myself. So some people say, well, I can't trust you. Okay, all right, I guess. Let me ask you this: tax abatements. What's your? I mean, it's a necessary evil, I guess. Sometimes. I'm not a big fan of tax abatements. I mean, I think depending on what goes on, I think it needs to be a case-by-case basis. I think some communities do them more than others, but coming from your position as a council member and going into, hopefully going into the commissioner's office, what's your thought about tax abatements for new businesses?
Oh, I love it. So it is, I would not be for across the board tax abatements.
Sure.
Not for that, but I'm going to give you the best example that I know to give you right here. Okay. Now, again, I'm going to take you down memory lane. Here we were, 2012 and after, unemployment rates high. Boar's Head contacts, Henry County, Corey, and says, hey, we're interested in coming to Henry County. Now we're talking about Boar's Head meat. Okay. Kind of a premium, deal here. And
sure.
they start the talks, and they start telling that, this is the first new building that they're going to build. They bought previous buildings and they've revamped old buildings into what they wanted. But they if this goes well and this marriage takes place in Henry County, they are going to down the road consider it to be their main headquarters. Okay, which everybody comes in, you're just listening, but they talk about the jobs that they'll bring, what they will pay an hour, and man, this looks good for Henry County. And they want a tax abatement. They do. They want a tax abatement. Now, a lot of people misunderstand. A lot of people think that a tax abatement means that they're not going to pay any taxes for 10 years. And that is not true. The first year, they're going to pay 1/10 of the taxes. Second year, they're going to pay 10% the first year, 20% the second, and so on. Until the 10th year, they're going to pay their lion's share of taxes. That's the way it works. But they come in and they say, we're going to build this kind of building, and even at this cost, and then where you also win is that all of the stuff that's inside the factory is taxed as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's the way I look at it. Okay, we've got this land setting out there, and you know how much it's making the county? Not anything.
Nothing.
And we've got a company coming in that says we're going to employ 300 and some people. We're going to pay them $20 some an hour, and we're going to do this and this, and we're going to come in. And what will you do for us?
Yeah.
Well, okay. At that time, I mean, man, Henry County, this would be a big shot in the arm. I voted for tax abatement. I voted for it to bring Boar's Head. Now, since that time, other communities are in this race as well. Henry County's not the only one. They've got several locations that they're looking for, and all of them have to meet the criteria. Henry County was one that did meet all of their criteria. You couldn't have certain things within so many miles. But anyway, Henry County fit their footprint, and so did some others. So which one's going to is going to do the best? Which one wants Boar's Head the worst, I guess? So under those circumstances, I felt like that we needed it. It'd be a good thing for Henry County. It worked out. They came within a very short time. They built onto that factory that they built. And then a short time after that, they bought the spec building across the street, and that's what's called their hummus plant now. They're employing more people than they ever, said they would, and I'm hearing that they're going to build again. So Boar's Head has been a good thing. Now, Chris, if we'd have said, no, we're not going to give you no tax abatement, we're going to give you anything, they probably would have chose one of those other locations.
Sure.
I would have.
Sure.
I would have been them.
Sure.
You gotta think, well, hey, they're investing millions upon millions of dollars, and they come in. So that I was for. There's been tax abatements I've not been for. So it's not for everybody. It's, what are you bringing to the table too that would make us want to give you a tax abatement?
Sure.
So I think it's a case by case, but I think you've just not got to be stupid about it. There are some businesses that in the long run, though, in 10 years, it's going to benefit us. It's going to benefit us right away, but really down the road, they're going to be a huge, huge taxpayer in Henry County.
Yeah,
and they are already.
Yeah.
And right now they're probably paying, I mean, I don't want to say with 100% certainty, but they would have to be up there. I'd say Boar's Head's been here 10 years or close to it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's I would say real close to that.
So that's an example.
Sure. Absolutely.
I hope that answers the question.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard much about this, or are you familiar with the flock camera system at all? Have you heard anything about this?
I don't know what that is.
Okay, I don't know that you guys have done this in Henry County or not. Someone from down there will have to tell me. I'm not 100% sure. Up here in Muncie, we've done it, unfortunately, and a lot of places, definitely bigger cities. But it seems like something that they're trying to do everywhere. It's almost like, have you ever been to Europe? Have you ever been over to Europe at any time?
No.
Okay, so
No.
I lived in London, England for a while, and London is known as like the most surveilled city, even more so than like places in like China or whatnot. London is the most surveilled city. They can, the London Metropolitan Police Department can see you come out of your front door and literally follow you from CCTV camera, from camera to camera to camera, all over the city. It's insane. And we, thank God, haven't been like that here in America, but they are quickly pushing this on us. And what these cameras are initially sold as, is they're cameras that are put up in your city to be able to check license plates and the makes and models of cars. And that way the police can put in, we have a bank robbery suspect that's driving a Ford Bronco. We have a runaway. We have a missing kid that's believed to be with their dad, and it's an estranged situation, and they're in a Camaro or whatever. And there's a lot. They're billed as being this great super tool for police, but they are also really bending over the line of, secure surveillance and whatnot. A lot of people are very upset about these. And so someone said that I guess Knightstown has a couple, and I don't know what's going on as far as Henry County goes with it. But what's your thought on that? You said you weren't very familiar with them.
Yeah, I am familiar. I've got a friend that lives down in Morristown, Tennessee, and they have these cameras down there where that if you run a red light, it'll catch your tag number and send you a ticket. I'm not for that. Okay. I just, heck, that's I do realize that when they've been, some of these shootings in bigger cities, that, they probably wouldn't have caught the killer if it hadn't have been for some of those cameras around there. And I guess that's what took place, where they was able to follow them at least a little bit. I'm not sure if those were all on campus or what. I can see, and I can see where some of those, that they have benefited, but I'm not. I hope that we never have anything to where that we've got cameras at every signal light and, waiting for somebody to go through there too fast or how you say, speeding or run the stoplight, and then they get a ticket for that, Yeah. That's Big Brother watching you too much.
Absolutely.
I think you got to draw the line somewhere, and I hope we never have that. Henry County's a laid back. It's more of a laid back county, and I kind of like it that I like it that way.
Yeah.
I like it being laid back. I like the country farmer. Years ago, Chris, people from Kentucky came up here and they went to Henry County, and people from Tennessee went to Muncie. You knew that.
Yeah.
And hey, they said there was a judge up there one time. He said he had somebody come before me. He said, "Where are you from?" He said, "From Jamestown, Tennessee." He said, "What's the population of Jamestown?" He said, "Oh, there's 1,700 people there." He said, "I know better than that." He said, "I've tried more than that in this court." Everybody was from Jamestown, Birdstown,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was just down there last September, because that's of course where we're from. The joke I always said was, it was exactly like you said, Kentucky and Tennessee, Henry County and Newcastle, and everybody vacations at Fort Myers Beach. that's I tell you what.
And you know what? We love Fort Myers Beach. You remember?
Yeah, right.
You've been there too. That's a
Oh
place
yeah,
to
yeah.
go.
My whole life, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Great place.
But no, I really like your answer. There's a pretty big YouTuber. He's a lawyer, and he examines different police and like First Amendment and different types of violations of people's civil rights. His YouTube channel is a civil rights lawyer, and he always ends. Oh yeah, great guy. He always ends his program with "Freedom is scary. Deal with it."
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that's something that I think that's a good way to live your life. And I definitely appreciate your answer.
I just don't want people watching me and spying on me. I mean, it's not that I'm doing anything bad or wrong. I just don't want it.
Right.
Just, I might want to go out behind the barn and pee or something.
Yeah,
I don't want somebody watching me.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Oh, gee. Sorry about that.
No. You're absolutely you're fine. That's absolutely. I think that's what a lot of people have said in the comments, that they appreciate your down to earth, attitude and the way that you're just you don't seem, to other people. You're not putting it on, you seem down to earth and who you are, and
I like things just down on cornbread and bean level.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Yeah. I'll ask you another question or two, and then we can kind of get into some Muncie stuff here, because I know that you've been interested to talk about that. But as far as 70 and 109, one of the commenters have said, 7109, what are you wanting to see to continue happen there as a commissioner? I would say over the next couple of years, there's going to continue being more growth in that area. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I hadn't really thought about it. I know it's a busy intersection, and we haven't talked about this yet, but we're in my son's Josh Dugger, and Josh is in the pumping business, and we pump down there at that Love's truck stop.
Yeah,
they have a mini sewage plant. That is a busy place.
Yeah,
and so you have what's called sludge, that it's processed, whatever, and they have outside tanks, inside tanks, and we've been hauling that for years down there. We haul it to a sewage plant. So I know this by the food and beverage tax. They produced more money for the food and beverage than any place in Henry County down there.
Wow.
At that area. Now you have got Love's, you've got a McDonald's there under the same roof. You have across the street, you have a restaurant there. Have you ever been to it? It's a grill there across the street from the Love's.
I know about it. I've never been there.
Yeah, and then there's a hamburger place there.
Yeah.
Then they just recently built the medical center. Next time I go to the doctor, I'll be going down there to that new building there. My doctor went down there. And so, that's that. And I appreciate the question, but I really hadn't thought much about that, because, Knightstown has a big say there.
Sure.
And what goes there. And so I sure don't want to be somebody to say they ought to do this or they ought to do that, because, Knightstown's a town, and I think I really like Knightstown. It's a good town, a good, clean, just a neat town. It's cool.
Yeah.
But they have the say so over that area. And I think that they should, more so than, maybe, me sitting up there as a commissioner, like take any town you want. I used to be able to tell you how many different towns there was in Henry County. And it seems like that, you had them broken down. You have Moreland, about I'm going to say 5 to 7 miles, you had Mount Summit. 5 to 7, you have Sulphur Springs. And then you have, the outer edge of Middletown. In any direction you wanted to go, just about anywhere in Henry. Not anywhere, but you have a lot of towns like that. But when you get towns like Middletown, Knightstown, they're pretty good sized towns.
Sure.
And those people in that community, they need to have a big say, big say in what they want, out there. And that's the way I feel about that.
Well, and I appreciate that comment, because I'm a real big proponent of home rule. Obviously, I don't want the state of Indiana telling the city of Muncie or city of Newcastle or Winchester, what's going on. I want Muncie or Newcastle or Winchester to dictate what's going on. I don't like the idea of what's good for Indianapolis being the same as what's good for Evansville, because there's no way that's nonsense, So, I like that idea that, even though you're commissioner of the county, the town has its own board and has its people. And so that's while you guys work together on a lot of things, and there's things that's beneficial for both, but I definitely appreciate that answer,
Well, I'll even go a step further. I'll tell you, I'll clue you in on this. And I just learned this last week, the town of Spiceland. Mm-hmm. Okay. The town of Spiceland used to be under, I'll call it, for lack of a better term, under the umbrella of the Planning Commission in Henry County.
Yeah.
Okay. Where they decided and the Planning Commission decided what they were going to do down in Spiceland. Well, something come up and they said, no, we don't like it. We're Spiceland down here. We'll just do our own planning down here.
Right.
And that's what they're doing now.
Yeah.
Chris, I don't blame them a bit.
No.
Why, and again, man, I'm old school.
Yeah.
And, my generation's dying off.
Yeah.
And, but who are we up there? And I'm not on it, but who are we up there to decide what Spiceland needs and don't need?
Yeah.
That's those people's community down there. Yeah. They live in Henry County, but they love Spiceland and they live there. Let them decide what business they want to come in there.
Certainly.
That's old stuff, but that's
I can
I don't know
that makes sense.
Believe like me anymore or not. I don't know.
I think more people need to. I think the people are still out there, and there are hopefully more people coming back to that train of thought, and hopefully that can maybe help right the ship, so to speak, in a lot of cases, because there's definitely some issues going on.
Well, here's what, let me just put this in. I think some towns have given up that right just because they didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah, sure.
And in doing so, they put all that on the Planning Commission and say, well, you guys do this, you guys, you do all this work. And then, but when something comes along that, they don't want, then they don't like it. Well, let the community, do that, but it's work, and you got to have people,
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the thing. No. So, you said you kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on up here. What's your thoughts? What you got? So people that don't know, obviously you've lived in Henry County, but you were a preacher, and you were up here in a church up here for 35 some years or whatnot. So you're real connected.
Do you know where the drum edition is?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Very much so.
Okay. I pastored for 30 years in the drum edition.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't know there is a Post Road in Muncie.
Yep.
But Post Road is over there in the drum edition.
Yep.
And, oh gosh, you see, I think I was 20, let's see. I might 22, 24, as a kid, and I started pastoring there to churches, bivocational, and I ended up, I stayed 30 years, and the church became, the Lord really blessed the church, and through the years it grew, and had had a great ministry there, and but the bigger we got, the politicians. This is funny, Chris. You'll love this. The politicians want to come around and visit your church service.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. You could always you didn't have to look at the calendar. All you had to do is just wait, and you see the politicians come in. Oh, it's election time. Yeah. I forgot. Yeah. So anyway, now there's been some people, obviously. I don't know. I'm curious how you feel about some of them. That's why I was wanting to take down memory lane.
Certainly.
Let's go back to Dan Cannon.
Okay.
Now, I liked personally. I don't know what your stance was, but I liked Dan Cannon.
Yeah.
I did. I liked him, and Dan would call me. I never asked Dan for anything. What was he in, about 12 years or more?
Dan Cannon was the first mayor in Muncie history to do 3 terms.
Okay.
So he did 3 terms, and it was talked about him doing a 4th term, and he really, and I appreciate him. I mean, that would have been historic, because he was the first one to do 3 terms, so it would have definitely been wild for him to do 4. But he just got to a point that he was like, I'm done with this. And he could have stayed. He could have won. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people that have different things to say about him. I like Dan. I think I was younger under his term, but I've been involved in politics in Muncie and Delaware County since I started about 8 or 9 years old. My mother's mom, my grandmother on my mother's side, was involved and got me involved, and my aunt on my dad's side had me involved in politics and doing different things, and so I kind of had it from both sides, and so I'm on top of that, I'm just kind of a historical nut, politically speaking, and crime speaking here in Muncie and Delaware County, but and amazingly, crime and politics go hand in hand, specifically here in Delaware County. But I like Dan Cannon. I think he did a lot of good for the city of Muncie, and I'm a fan of Dan.
I'm like you. I think Dan did too. And so Dan was the first mayor that I ever got involved with. So like Dan, I didn't know Dan when he first ran, but we got to know each other. And like I say, I never asked him for anything, but always at re-election, he'd bring around jackets with his name on it, and I would get together people and go work the polls for Dan. And I did that twice. Now let's see, we're going to test my memory. Okay. Maybe yours too. You'll know better than me. I think after Dan Cannon ran, there was another mayor that ran just 4 years. What was his name? I've met him, and he's been to the church.
You're talking about, that would have been before Dan Cannon. Are you talking about David Dominic?
Yeah, he was after Dan.
He was he was before.
He was?
Yeah, he was before. He was so there's a really cool, if you like Muncie and you like politics, there's a really cool YouTube video that is it's an old school documentary, and it focuses, you remember Jim Carrey, the Muncie mayor Jim Carrey? Big Jim Carrey, dude, I tell you what. There was a big documentary done on the campaign between Jim Carrey and Al Wilson. Okay. And Alan Wilson's an attorney in Muncie. He's still alive. I think he might be like 92 or 93, but he was a young guy at the time, and he beat Big Jim, and he did 4 years, and then they had a re-election, and then Jim Carrey beat Alan Wilson. And for those that don't know Jim Carrey, he was the sheriff, and he was arrested by the FBI for gambling, and he got out of that. Then he was the chief of police, and he was arrested for gambling then, and he got out of that, and he was indicted. I think he had a couple wives that died, under suspicious circumstances. And I mean, he was one of those guys. His famous line was he spoke a couple different languages. He spoke rich, poor, black, white, and Shedtown.
Yeah.
And that's what he would say. And he was one of those guys. He never forgot a name. He'd pat you on the back, and he's one of those guys that would come and give you, a truck full of gravel right around election time, or do this or do that. And he always knew how to get in there. He was just one of those kind of old school Catholic, Catholic kind of guys. So that was there. Then Dominic beat him, and then Cannon beat Dominic is what happened. So that's what happened from there. And then,
Jim Carrey, let me say this, Jim Carrey really, he was a guy kind of like you would have met in the Prohibition days.
Oh yeah. He was definitely
he would have been big time back in the Prohibition.
Yeah. Kind of like a Boss Tweed type of character from, he was definitely a different type of a character. He was at the right time for him politically, but if he would have been born in the 20s or 30s, he would have been giant.
Yeah. It would. I hope we're not boring our listeners.
No. They love it.
I did know Mayor Dominic, so maybe I helped Dan 3 terms and just don't remember. But now here's coming the big one.
Okay.
Remember Sharon?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she followed Dan then.
Yeah, so it was Jim Carrey, then it was David Dominic, then Dan Cannon, and so Dominic was 92 to 96. And then Cannon was 96 to 2008.
Okay.
Sharon was 2008 to 2011.
Okay. Now Sharon, I don't remember who was running against her, but I helped her. Okay. I helped her, worked for her, whatever. I don't know how big of a help I was, but here's the thing. I'm going to tell you something else you didn't know about me. Okay. So I got you remember the old WERK 990 AM?
Oh yeah.
Okay. It went in the dark.
Yeah.
A state rep owned that, sold the FM, made so much money on it, they give him what he asked for it and didn't even jew him down. So he donated the 990 AM license to someone that I knew that was a friend of mine. I got the FCC to let me put that back on the air. I did. And they let me move. That station to the church over on Post Road. And so I ran the 990 AM station, built a studio in the church. Yeah. And then the FCC opened up a window that you could apply for a low power FM station. And I applied, and it was on a point system. Well, the point system, we had more points than anybody could, even though other people were competing for it. They awarded me. They were lobbying against it in Washington, but they went in recess or something, home for Christmas or something, and it ran out. And so anyway, it passed. And so long story short, they awarded me that, and it was 99.1 FM. I put both of them to make gospel music stations. I learned to be what do you call it, a radio engineer? Or, what's the guy that works on everything? Is he an engineer?
Engineer.
Yeah. So I out of necessity, and that is meaning having no money, I learned to do all of that. And so we had that. So here we are, picture in your mind a church, and we have 2 radio stations. So guess who? It's like owning a pickup truck, Chris.
Yes.
If you own a pickup truck, every friend you have needs something moved.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so when people run, they then kind of like to have the blessing and come in and tape a program and me do for them what you're doing with me tonight, and so we made commercials and done things like that, and so So there's where I helped out. And so, but I helped get Sharon in, and then I helped get her out.
Yeah. So
Big time.
that's
Big
interesting.
time.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that. So
Yeah.
at the time before Sharon was in the mayor's office, Sharon was the clerk at Yorktown. And I'm a former police officer. I worked at the prosecutor's office, and I knew Sharon when she was the clerk at Yorktown, and I got along with her well. Always liked Sharon. And Sharon's running for clerk right now in Delaware County.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. She's
What was her last name?
McShirley.
Yeah, that's right.
Her husband Ron McShirley is an attorney, and I always loved Ron McShirley. They're both still alive. Obviously, she's running, but he's a hell of a guy, good dude. Like, I really, really enjoy him and just talking to him. And I always liked her at the clerk's office, and she came in the mayor's office, and she is probably one of my biggest arch nemesis. Politically speaking, I dislike Sharon and everything she did in the mayor's office. I was not a fan of Dennis Tyler, but when Dennis ran against her, I was supportive of Dennis in every way possible, just because I wanted her to be beat. And I still remember where I was. I was living in Winchester at the time, but I was very involved, obviously still there. And I remember I was sitting in my my wife's grandparents' home, and we were watching. I clicked on they hadn't had the results in, and I clicked refresh, and the first thing I said, and it's not nice, but they were singing up at Democrat headquarters, "Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead." And that's the first thing I saw, and I thought, oh my God, she lost. And so that's what happened. And so Dennis got in, and then Dennis was in, and I was hardcore on Dennis. And of course, all that craziness. But then I actually developed a little bit of more respect for him than I had. Yeah. And since he's been out of office, Dennis is one of those guys. He got in trouble for something really stupid. Yeah. Just really, really, really stupid. But it was like, Dennis is one of those guys that goes and robs the bank to help like a cancer patient have a security. That's kind of what he did. You know what I mean? Yeah. Dennis's problem was Dennis was, I think, a good-hearted person that was an old-school politician. But the problem is he had really bad people around, underneath and around him that did a lot of bad things. And so that caused all that chaos.
Well, I mean, we could, but and we could talk about that, I'm sure, for a while. But I want to take you back. So,
sure,
so Sharon was in for 4 years, and I am exactly like you. So here, I want to be careful not to, to name names, and
you're fine.
But there's, how it is. Some people are closer to you than others, and some want you to they want to bring Dennis over, and so they did. And I said, I won't help you in the primary. I said, I'm a Republican, and I've supported the Republicans here, and I said, I just won't. You got to let the primary shake out. If you win the primary, I will help you, because I wanted to see her out.
Yeah,
and he won it, and so. In the fall, you have Sharon and Dennis. Okay, so which one are you going to choose? Well, I chose to help Dennis, and I did. Boy, I mean, I made commercials for him. There'd be people saying, "I was in Rural King the other day, and I heard you on the radio." That you were. They had me down at the big radio stations, and I made commercials for him. But anyway, I helped him, and lo and behold, it wasn't all because of me. I'm not taking the credit for that. It's just that I did help him because I didn't want to see, I didn't want to see Sharon go back in and see another 4 years of that. So, what are you going to do? But the Republicans trashed me over that in Delaware County. You know, and I get it, you know, but it's like I told some of them down in Henry County years ago. We had a guy that was a Republican, and he was running for well, boy, I'm gonna get myself in trouble here. Anyway, but you know, let me say it this way. I'll rephrase it. You can have somebody that is a Republican, but you know, they can make your whole party look bad because they're an idiot.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that they're better.
Yeah.
You know, there's been in Henry County, there's been a Democrat candidate that I've voted for.
Sure.
They were the best person for the job.
Sure.
You know, and sometimes I said it's just not because they're Republican. You can go ahead and everybody vote for them, and then you put them in office, and then you've got an idiot.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to deal with that for 4 years. If you don't, at least you know you can blame the other party if you don't.
Yeah, right. So, well, you know, I'll tell you, I've got one set of grandparents still alive I'm very, very close with, and my grandmother is a Republican, my grandpa's a Democrat, and her mother was a hardcore staunch Republican, and his dad was a staunch Democrat, and they would fight and argue and bicker and carry on. My grandmother on my mom's side that got me involved, she was a Democrat, what I'd call a Kennedy-crat, you know, a blue dog Democrat, something like that. And so, you know, I can see it both ways, but locally, you know, my thing is when you're talking about local politics, you're not talking about, you know, the national arguments. You're not talking about the Second Amendment. You're not talking about immigration. You're not talking, you know, you're not doing those big things. And so when you're talking about local politics, you're talking about, you know, roads, infrastructure, snow removal, you know, trash, if that's something your community does, or if not, you know, getting a contract out for it, and public safety, you know what I mean? Economic development. Beyond that, you know, and you could be Republican and get that right or wrong. You could be Democrat, get that right or wrong. So that doesn't really matter. I'm a big fan of Reagan. But I tell you, one of the worst things Reagan did was that whole idea, quote unquote, of the 11th commandment, thou shalt not speak ill of another Republican. And that whole idea of not being able to call out people in your party, first and foremost, like, you know, you might not be able to say anything bad about my brother, but if my brother's doing, you know, dumb crap, I'm going to call him out. You know, if I can't call my brother out, who can I call out? You know, if you're a police officer and you see a bad police officer doing something wrong, you have to call that person out. So if, as a Republican, as a conservative, if I can't call out or have issues with fellow Republicans, then who can I have issues with? You know, and so I don't like that idea of, you know, having to just, you know, support somebody fully blindly. I'm never going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I get you there 100%, and that, you know, it's crazy.
Yeah, well, I know you know, things get back to you, but you're known for calling people out.
Oh yeah,
and I love it.
No way.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I was up, and I don't care. I was up at the voter registration office in Henry County when I was doing the paperwork and things, and they said, "Oh, Mr. Bilbrey, he comes in here and said, but you know," they said, "but you know, he's told us some things that we needed to change and we needed to do. We didn't know it, but you called him out."
I feel so sorry. So I know this through the grapevine that, like, when I first started going around in the clerks, I like Jenny. Jenny's a wonderful person.
Yeah, she sure is. Yeah.
The girls in her office are great, and they do a good job. And I'm going to have both of those candidates on. It's going to be tough to, you know, decide what's going on there. That's going to be a big race down there. But I tell you what, I've been in there, and like walking in there, like they started like crying, and I'm like, no, calm down. Oh yeah, it's like, dude, it's not that rough. Just relax. It's you know, everything's gonna be good. You just listen. do the right thing. Here's the thing I can't get people to understand. You don't have to do something that I agree with. You can say, well, we're going to paint the streets gold or we're going to paint the streets red. And I can think that's a horrible idea. And as long as you're willing to tell me that's what you're going to do, what I don't like is when people won't communicate. They won't tell you why they're doing something. We don't have to agree. I'm okay if we have a talk and we disagree. Now, we might debate it out respectfully, and it could even get like passionate. But as long as you're willing to stand behind your idea, we can walk away disagreeing, and I'm fine with that. And I can love you and respect you and still say, well, damn it, I don't agree, and that's that, and we just end it like that. But that's fine. What I can't stand and what I just absolutely will not abide is elected officials who will not communicate. They're not transparent. They will not allow themselves to be held accountable just because they won't do it. They try to shut down comments, or they won't email, or they won't respond, or they won't pick up the phone, and they refuse to talk about the reasons why they do things. That's when I have a problem. That's the issue that I have.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm gonna give you something that I don't care for.
Sure.
It's like I don't know, like you've seen it before when somebody gets that title, that position or something, it's like they are somebody now, somebody big, somebody. Yep. I don't get it, man. I'm just as common and will be without a title, it don't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a servant.
Yeah.
You've signed up for the job that you're doing.
Yeah.
To serve the people of your community.
Yeah.
And that's what you are. Don't forget that. I'm here to help. I had this is a funny story. I'll tell you a funny one. Down in a little community down here when I was on the council, had a guy, and he had an old blind horse. And he did. He had an old blind horse, and it was in city limits, and he I guess he just wanted to care for that horse. And
Sure.
The people of the town teamed up on him, going to make him get rid of that.
Oh my God.
And so I made a bunch. He come to me, of all people. Why me on the council? I don't know, but hey, if I can help the old guy, I'm going to help him. So I made a bunch of calls to the state, and I said, this town down here, they decide at this meeting, well, what they're going to do is they're going to make up an ordinance. And so they get together, and we're going to make up an ordinance that you can't have blind horses in town. I'm joking there a little bit.
Yeah, right. Sure.
So anyhow, they'll vote on it the next meeting. Okay. I got it wrote up here. Now we're going to vote on it. And they vote on it. And I said, I know that if you're going to pass an ordinance, that it takes a long time. You got to advertise it. You got to read it so many times and so long. And so I go down there to the meeting. I said, you guys, there's some things you don't understand. You draw up an ordinance on a piece of paper and vote on it, and you think it's law, and it's not. I said, now this fella here's got this horse, but you don't really have an ordinance. And I said, the bottom line is you can't make him get rid of it. And besides that, if you could, he'll sue the britches off it. So now get this, Chris. So the next meeting, one of the board members resigns. He's calling me the next day, and he says, hey, he said, so-and-so resigned from the town board. He said, what I need to do to get that position. And I said, well, so let me ask you a question. I hadn't asked him. I said, until now. And I said, are you a Democrat or Republican? He said, well, I'm a Democrat. I said, okay. I said, what seat did that person have? He said, they were Democrat. I said, okay. And I told him who to get a hold of. Long story short, the next month, guess who's in there? He is. And the horse issue went away.
Isn't that amazing?
Isn't that funny?
Isn't
and
that
about
funny how that happens?
2 years later, he was a president down there. Isn't that funny?
It's really amazing how that works, and so many people forget where they come from, forget the reason. I think it's a psychological thing, and that it's like people put on the police uniform or people become elected, and it's that all of a sudden, like, I have power now. I'm somebody. I get people, thanks, Kate. I get people who will ask me, all the time, like, well, how did you get this? Or why would someone give this to you or whatever? And I'm like, or ask me to do something. And I'm like, there's no difference between me and you. I'm nobody. Like I had a friend, and matter of fact, it was the fight with Sproles that started this right when it first started. Somebody, I think we were fighting over public records, and I was talking with a really good confidant of mine who gives me a lot of ideas, and they were like, we were looking at how I was going to address this, and I was going to, sometimes I got a little bit of an ego. I don't think people just start doing this without having something wrong in their head. No, normal people don't do this, but I started to respond, and I was like, going to tell him off and who I was, and this is what he needed to do. And I'm, the state of Indiana looks at me like this. And this person, said, you're going about this wrong. You need to say, I'm nobody. I'm just a citizen. I'm just a citizen that picked up a microphone. You shouldn't be saying you need to give this to me because I'm somebody. You should be saying, not only should you be giving this to me, but you should give it to anybody that asks. And from that point forward, I've always said that I'm not anybody. I'm just an idiot that picked up a microphone and a camera. I happen to be in the right place at the right time, right place at the wrong time, or whatever, however you want to say that, the right place at the right time. And I've been very blessed in my life to have some of the situations that I have, but I'm just a citizen, and I'm trying to do the same thing. This is my form of public service. You know what I mean? I don't think I could do as much. I don't think I could do as much if I was a councilman or if I was a commissioner. I think I'm serving the place that I think God wants me.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what that is. And people ask me all the time about running, and I'm like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But before we get ready to shut this down, if I don't ask you this, Jack is going to kill me.
Okay.
And I don't even think he's from anywhere near. I think he's hundreds and thousands of miles away. I think he's in a whole different state. But he has me ask literally every guest I ever have on this question.
Okay.
And so I'm going to ask it to you as a conservative, as a Republican, as a candidate running. I'm going to ask it a little bit different than him because he says elements, but it's not really elements. It's more the rights. Are you familiar with or can you name, or do you know? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot here.
That's okay.
I think you'll know what we're talking about, but are you aware of the 5 elements, the 5 rights that the First Amendment guarantees?
I don't.
Okay, so
I'm honest, I don't.
You know what the First Amendment is, obviously.
Sure.
The freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the 5 essential freedoms are religion, assembly, press, petition, and speech. So you obviously have the freedom of religion. You can practice the religion that you want, or you can't be forced to practice a religion.
Right.
You have the right to assemble. You have the right to the freedom of press. The press, has the right of press. You have the right to petition the government, and you have the right to speech. Well, I don't get so. People know what the First Amendment is, but I don't get so hung up when people are like, I don't know what those, because the 5 elements kind of throws people off.
Yeah.
The way I ask about this is, as a Republican, and I know the answer to this without asking you, but as a candidate running to be a public servant, if you are elected, are you going to ever do anything to shut down speech? Like, are you okay with people speaking, giving public comments at a meeting, and are you going to have issue responding or emailing people back and forth or contacting them back?
I'm not going to shut nobody down. And something that I watch. See, I don't. I'm different, okay, and being a Christian, I'm careful about things I listen to, things
Absolutely.
I watch, and but so I choose, and I get my news from YouTube. And we could talk 2 more hours, Chris, about the media.
Yeah.
You pick and choose, and but I pick and choose, and it's in segments that what I watch, and then I kind of summarize and from that. But I watch also some of the lawyers, like the one that you mentioned a moment ago.
Sure.
And let me try not to get sidetracked here, but,
no, you're fine.
but like you'll see situations where people get arrested. They go to a city council meeting and they have them arrested and taken out.
Yeah.
Hey, they've got the freedom to say. The bottom line is those people just don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
They don't want those citizens saying what they're saying, and they're doing like you. They're holding their feet to the fire. They're telling them the way they see it.
Sure.
Whether you like it or not, those people are probably right on. And I don't think that I would wish or hope that people would be respectful and not use very vulgar language.
Sure.
I think that's bad taste. But if they want to come in and they want to say something about the way they think the county's going, they've got every right to, and never be put out or, have the police to take them out or anything over their speech, because that's their right.
Sure.
They can come in. That's just,
I can respect that, and I agree, and that's a good friend of mine is Rob Kendall. He's used to be a radio DJ on 93.1 WIBC. He's got his own show on YouTube, and he used to be an elected counselor from Brownsburg, and he said, I was a public servant. I was there to serve the people, and we did. They had public comments at the beginning and the end of the meeting, and they were They were 3-minute time limit, so 3 minutes at the beginning, 3 minutes at the end. He said basically, we had a meeting a month, and you had 6 minutes that you could come up and say anything that you want to say to me, as long as you're not committing a crime. You can call me anything in the book you want to call me. Come up. I'll let you speak 3 minutes at the beginning, 3 minutes at the end. And I never wanted to stop anybody and say whatever. And he like you, he said, I would have hoped that people would approach it in a certain way, but at the end of the day, you got 3 minutes. I can sit and listen to anybody say anything for 3 minutes. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so that's the thing. But yeah, I definitely appreciate that answer, and I can understand where you're coming from there, and that's the main thing. And I'll tell you, I haven't been as concerned when I first started. I started having people contacting me in about 2017 or 2018 saying, hey, you need to come down here and take a look at. See, I used to just be a normal person. I just did politics for my own, and that was it. And then I would go out and I would work for campaigns, and I would go door to door. But it was not until I moved out of Muncie, I moved into Winchester and had a fight, when I noticed that I was the only citizen in the city of Winchester that went to, we have two, in Winchester, they have 2 council meetings a month, the first and third Monday. And for 6 meetings in a row, so for three meetings, 3 months, 2 meetings a month for 3 months, I was the only citizen in the room. And so I started utilizing my social media to tell people what was going on, what was happening. And it was my brother said, hey, you're writing too much. You need to start doing this in video format. And so that's how I kind of started doing this. This was never to do a show and to do this for a living. I was just telling my friends and neighbors, hey, you might want to start paying attention to what's going on. No one's coming to these meetings, and this has been happening. And it grew into this. And so I had people reach out to me in 2017, and I was like, I wouldn't come down to Newcastle. That's nuts. I don't live there. Well, when I first started poking around finally in like 2020, they were in Newcastle. They were trying to shut people down. They wouldn't let you speak, and they didn't want to answer. And they got all that worked out. So I think Newcastle and Henry County is in a good spot now. But and I knew what your answer would be there, but I just wanted to.
I'm glad you asked. Was it when, and we won't spend much time on this, but was it Winchester town back a number of years ago where, oh man, didn't they have a big blow up or something there? Was that town? Was it Winchester?
Yeah.
I forget what it was over though, but it was something that, did they come to blows or something?
They arrested, I was arrested in a meeting.
Oh, you were?
I stood up and I was arrested in a meeting for saying, you guys are a joke. I didn't threaten them. I didn't curse them. I didn't pull out a knife. I didn't pull out a gun. I stood up and said, you guys are a joke. You're out of, matter of fact, the very actual exact thing that I said is right here. This is what I said. You're out of order. This whole place is out of order. This is a joke. You're out of order. This whole place is out of order. This is a joke. That's what I said. That's actually a recording from the meeting. What?
Yeah. You got that on speed dial.
I save it down there to remind myself every now and then. But and for saying that, I was arrested. I was thrown into a wall. My hands were twisted behind my back, and I was put in handcuffs. I was taken to jail for disorderly conduct. The prosecutor's office refused to file charges. They said it was an unlawful and unjust arrest. It resulted in a federal civil rights lawsuit in which I was victorious, and it completely changed what happened there. The mayor lost his race for state representative. A couple council members quit, resigned. The fire chief resigned. The police chief resigned, and it was,
Well, I came across something like that, and I've got some nephews that live kind of close to Winchester.
Yeah.
And I said, man, have you guys seen what was going on? Now that I know it was Winchester. And they said, no. And I said, pull this up on there. And so it must have been you, but yeah. Now let me take you back to one thing. Shedtown.
Sure.
You said the word Shedtown.
Yeah.
Now you're not from Shedtown, are you?
No. I got some family from Shedtown, but I'm not. Yeah, no.
Tattoo.
Yeah, no, don't.
I saw a guy about a month ago, and it was up on a job site, and I said, I got cousins that live in Shedtown. He said, I'm from Shedtown. I said, are you? I said, let's see your tattoo.
Yeah.
He said, and he so quickly unlaced his shoe and pulled his boot off and pulled his sock down. And I said, it's supposed to be right here.
Right here.
He said, yeah. And he said, when I got it tattooed, he said, I knew I couldn't let my mom see it. And he said, so I put it down here. So to show his Shedtown tattoo, he has to take his shoe off. That funny. Yeah. I seen a guy over in Anderson one day, and I went in a plumbing store over there and looked down at his hand, and he had the tattoo. Yeah. And I said, you from Shedtown? He said, yeah. How'd you know? And I said, well, your tattoo. He said, yeah. He said, and we had great conversation. My cousins, my uncle had, he had about 12 kids. The Coles, do you know any of the Coles?
I know that name. Yeah.
Yeah. They from Shedtown, and I always have a blast. They're my kind of people, Chris. When I go over there, I say, somebody said you're the mayor of Shedtown. I said, is red wine?
Red wine.
Red wine. I said, is red wine really the mayor of Shedtown? I'd go to the next one and say, is red wine really the mayor of Shedtown? No, he ain't the mayor. I'm the mayor of Shedtown. Everyone you go to, they're the mayor.
Absolutely.
It's funny. Yeah.
That's
remember the red wines. And, gee, man. I've had a lot of great times up there in Muncie. And, it's I love it, but man, we could talk all night about
I tell you what, and that's the thing. Well, I'll have to number one, go ahead.
Well, I got one question for you.
You're fine.
Okay, this I was wanting to ask you. So I'm assuming that maybe somehow, some way, that this person might have been related to you. Okay. And I've asked Rachel, and she don't know. But years ago, there was the VP on 67 right off Hoyt Avenue.
Yeah.
Okay. There was a billboard there, and there was a Bilbrey that had a camera then, and he had a billboard, and it said, "My little friend."
No, that's not Bilbrey. That's Roger Overby.
Overby.
Roger
Yeah, you're
Overby.
right.
Rachel knows who Roger Overby is.
Okay,
Say hello
you're
to my little
right.
friend. Yes,
My little
yes.
Roger Overby. I
Yeah,
was
Roger
thinking
watch it. He
Bilbrey.
might be watching this. I don't know if he
Really?
watches this or not. Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
he have a podcast?
He does not. So Roger had a production company called Millennium Production, and he worked for the city of Muncie. Worked for Dennis Tyler. He was the productions guy for the city. He did all of the public access channel stuff. He's retired now. He works at a gun store in Muncie.
Okay.
Guns and More. Real good friend of mine. He's watching, probably watching. If he's not watching, he'll watch. Be watching here soon. But yeah, that's Roger Overby.
I had that confused.
Yeah,
I was thinking Bilbrey.
Yeah,
but that's been years ago. When you remember the billboard there?
Oh yeah. I think there's still one up in Muncie.
Oh, there is
on Broadway that's coming around. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there's still one up. But yeah, that's right. Funny.
Roger Overby. And didn't he have some family that were drywallers?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Overby Drywall Company or something like that. I think they were related to him.
Absolutely. Well, but yeah,
man, it's been good, Chris.
This has been a great time. I'll definitely have to now. So when we're getting ready to wrap up here, I don't go away. I'll put you down below when we wrap up, but I want to talk to you at the end of this.
Oh, okay. But can I do one thing?
Yeah.
I've got a campaign manager.
Yeah,
you probably know her. I want her to step up here.
Yeah, real quick. I want to put this on screen here real quick so they can see. This is your Facebook page, Commissioner Steve Dugger. Yeah. People can go there. Kate's been putting it up at the bottom. You can find this on Facebook. This is Commissioner Steve Dugger. It's Steve Dugger for Commissioner, Henry County Commissioner. You can find this on Facebook. If anyone has any other questions, you can go there and find him. If anybody is interested in the Henry County area and wants a sign, please contact them. They'll give you a sign. There is Ryan.
He's going to tell what to do about that.
What to do about that, Ryan?
I don't know anything, Chris, about any of this stuff.
Right. I hear you.
I think everything's actually tagged, but it's just Dugger4 commissioner@gmail.com if you're wanting to email the accounts. And then there is a Facebook page set up, just Steve Dugger for Henry County Commissioner.
Okay.
Are different ways that you can access. And if you want to access Steve, you can message him on Facebook if you don't want to email.
Okay. Yeah. That's very easy. We'll get you all of that. In the description of this episode, I have put the access to his Facebook page. I will put his email. That's all there for people who are from Henry County. They're easy to get a hold of. If you if you are wanting to get a hold of him and you can't, you can get a hold of me and I'll help put you in contact. But yeah. So that's that.
You want me to bring him back over so he can say bye?
Yeah, if you want. Well, that's fine.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. Well, Chris, I want to thank you.
Matt, amazingly, I don't know what happened there, but I think that bumped you up at least a couple more votes there. The people in the audience saying that put her back on screen. We'll vote for him if he just puts her on.
Well, now she's single. She's single, and she's looking for a man. And I don't know. She's probably in her 20s.
Something like that.
Yeah, I went in the other day. You knew I was on that.
Lost Hogs of Liberty.
Yeah. I went in there and Jeremiah.
Yeah.
Jeremiah said, I went and I say, Jeremiah, I said, this is my wife. And and she never said nothing. I just go on like that. And I seen this funny look on his face, and I said, no, she's not my wife. She's
That's hilarious. Well, Steve, I appreciate your time. Well, win, lose, or draw, we'll have to have you back on. You're welcome to come on anytime.
Yeah.
And talk about anything that you want to get out, or if there's a way that we can help you guys, we're willing to do that. And I'll have to come down. We'll have to go out to lunch or dinner or breakfast or something sometime. I'd love to talk with you
that'd be great.
And chat more.
Yeah, I hope maybe and you having me on tonight, I hope that people have got to see me, and I know you got a lot of people that's going to watch this even after tonight.
Certainly.
But I'll do a good job, and
yeah,
people go out and go to the polls and vote. I'd appreciate it very, very much. And I want to thank you for your time and all this, and for having me on tonight. Okay.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. I appreciate it. Stay put there, and we'll be right back with you there, sir.
Sure.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Steve Dugger. He is running for commissioner of the Northern District. Now, this is very important, and I want people to know this. He's running for the Northern District, and what that Northern District means is that's where he has to come from, because he couldn't be running for the Southern District because he lives in the Northern District. However, every voter in Henry County will vote for him. It's not like council districts. Every voter in Henry County will go, and they will pull up a ballot, and he will be on the ballot for everybody. So just because you might be in the middle or the Southern District, keep that in mind. So, just FYI, he will appear on your ballot. This has been the first interview of the candidates. We're going to have many, many more on. I promise you they're not going to be this interesting. I like Steve. We could do another 10 hours with Steve, I'm sure. And in the chat, in the private chat, they were trying to decide who could talk more, me or Steve. I don't know. He might give me a run for my money, but I don't know. The race is contested. Kate just asked, is the race contested? Yes, the race is contested. He has an opponent, Chase Heinhold or something like that. And we are going to put out a letter to him and give him an invitation to come on. If he'll come on, he's more than welcome, as well as everybody else is. So thank you all for tuning in. And we will be back tomorrow. Now, remember, Henry County, tomorrow is Thursday, which means the big Henry County Sheriff's Department forum, along with the Commissioners Forum and the Council Forum, is held tomorrow at the Henry County Newcastle Library. Tune in for that. That will be on... That event will start at 6 p.m. and it will run to 7:30 p.m. tomorrow, Thursday, April 9th. So tune in for that. We will not be live streaming it. I think Bobby Plummer will probably record it. She recorded the one on Tuesday, and she did much better with the audio. So we'll probably go over that, but I will be there in person. I'm going to try to static record it, and I'll let you know how that goes. In all fairness, he knew what the First Amendment was. He just didn't. That's kind of a trick question, Jack, when you ask people that. Name me the 5 elements. If you ask, if the question being, do you know what the First Amendment is? Everybody's going to tell you the First Amendment is freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of religion, da-da-da-da-da. If I would have asked him that way, he said he knew what the First Amendment was. Immediately going into what's the 5 elements, that's only people. I mean, that's kind of a strange way to ask that, but we'll put that to the test. I'll ask everybody if they know what the First Amendment is. We'll find out what the deal is. So, all right, you guys take care. Have a good evening. God bless each and every one of you. You take care, and we will see you back here tomorrow evening. Good night and goodbye.